Hey guys, what you're about to watch is a conversation I had with my good friend Jonny Santana, who's a filmmaker. He started making movies when he was 6 years old, and today he's 22 years old, and he's got three feature films under his belt. In this conversation, we talk about how to make it as a filmmaker in Hollywood. Do you need film school or not? And the pros and cons of going or not going. And finally, how to make your first feature film if you have no experience. We talk about a lot more, of course. Hope you enjoy. Let's dive in. Like, how old, first of all, like, how old are you now? Just for people that don't know.
I'm 45. No, I'm 22 currently.
22 currently, okay. And when did you start making movies, I guess? Or like what was your
But
first
when I was
like
4 years
moment?
old,
Yeah.
um, I had my first movie theater experience. It was Sam Raimi's Spider-Man, and blew me away. When I walked out of it, I was holding my dad's hand, and I was like, "Hey, who makes those things that we just saw?" Because I was four, I don't know what things are. My dad said, "Oh, those are movies, and movie directors make them." And I was like, "That's what I'm gonna be." So since I was 4 years old, I've known I wanted to be a filmmaker. I started making movies like six or seven, like with the home VCR and the mini DV tape type cameras. And I just kept on doing that. One of the big things was in sixth grade, I um, there was this teacher that noticed that I liked movies and stuff, and so he set up this whole program for me. It was called the Daily Comet. It was like every 2 weeks they would play my short films that I've done with students. It was kind of also like a news broadcast thing, and he got all the students to pool, all the teachers to pool in money to buy like a computer for it and to like buy like gear. So that like we could do it, which is great because it was a public school, it wasn't like a private school or anything. And so like every 2 weeks, 600 students would be seeing my stuff, and like they would just take 15 minutes out of the class, and I could walk to the classes and I could see what was funny and what students liked. And I mean, uh, an elementary school audience is a very easy audience, like 10-year-olds and 7-year-olds laugh at anything. So I mean, I thought I was pretty great, that they really liked my stuff. So that was like me in sixth grade. And it was cool too because I learned a lot of entrepreneurial things because to make that and lead that team, it was like a team of 15 like kids. I missed a lot of class, like, and my teachers would allow me because I was the guy making the short films, the broadcasts every 2 weeks. And so in the middle of class, I would get up and I would walk to other classes and I would like go to the teacher's lounge. And so like I started understanding like, oh, life isn't this factory where you just have to go to each class and go to the bell and blah blah. Like I was starting to like look behind the scenes of like if you make your own stuff, you can dictate your own schedule. And so I learned a lot there. And then in middle school, I was making more short films, and I was winning high school competitions when I was like in seventh grade. I won an iPad once, and
What in elementary school? Like, what type of movies were you making? Like, why did the teachers like notice you and like give you like a special treatment?
so what they noticed was that I always liked movies. I talked about it, and in fifth grade, so sixth grade was when they set up the Daily Comet. In fifth grade, there was a report that I had to do on like a state, like this 3D, a United States state, and I had to do Nevada, and I asked them, can I just do a video for it? And they're like, oh, okay. And so I did a video report instead of the actual report that they wanted, like an essay or a PowerPoint. Like I created like a short film. I mean, I used short film very like in quotes. Like it wasn't very good and it didn't have much story, but I did that. And then my teacher was like, oh, wow, did you do all that? I was like, yeah, I edited it, and then you're pretty good. And then his name was Mr. Shah. He talked to Mr. Cson and Mr. King, who are the sixth graders, and they were like, "Oh, well, we've always thought it'd be a good idea to have like a news broadcast or like some creative media things." And they clearly saw that I could lead it, so that's why they set it up, and that's why they had it.
Nice. And then you're saying primary school, or
Do they call it primary school in France?
they do, yeah. But
Oh, that's interesting.
I guess you're
Um,
saying in high school after, right?
yeah, I mean, I just kept on making movies, and the cool thing is like when you make movies and you show them off, um, all the kids that want to make movies, like the actors, from drama class, or like the artists from art class and everything, like they notice it and they come up to you and they want to be your friends. And so as you're making movies from a young age, over the years, the team naturally develops because someone sees something and then they see that you're a confident leader and they go, hey, can I help you on the next one? And so I was building my team and I was building the people that liked movies. And so I always, like, up until now, I always have people around me that I can like just call or hit up. They're like, hey, let's make a movie, and they'll just drop everything and do it. Because for the love of movies. And in high school, I kept on making films, and then I read an article by Steven Spielberg, or about Steven Spielberg, and when he was 17, he made his first feature film. It was called Firelight. It was like a 2-hour movie. And one thing in the film world is a lot of people make shorts, but they're too scared to make the feature because the feature is like a year and a half, like commitment. Like the feature is, it's tons of footage. It costs money, and it's like a full length film. Like you graduate to like the big movie. And Spielberg did that at 17, 18 with film. Like he did it with when it was still filming. He had to like cut it with scissors and tape it. And I was like, if I want to be the next Spielberg, then I need to make a feature film by the age he did it. And so I did that. It was called Fruit Juice. I don't think anybody can see it now because it's not good. But it was cool because it premiered at an actual theater, which was a big deal for me. Like it was 400 seats. The theater's been closed down, but it was called the Ken in San Diego. And it was pretty dope. The way I got all the people to show up was I went to every teacher during lunch in high school and said, hey, can you give extra credit to the kids that go to my screening? And they were like, oh, wow, we'll support you. And so they gave extra credit. Like they were like, we'll give you one homework assignment. So like a lot of teachers did that. And so it was packed, like 400 kids I didn't even know from my high school like showed up to see the movie. Teachers showed up too. And the movie is like, it's got a lot of cursing. It's got like an F-bomb every sentence because I didn't know how to like write movies. And so like afterwards, during I'm looking around, like the teachers like have their heads in their hands and like, how can we give extra credit to this? like parents were showing up with like their little kids. They were like, oh my God, what did we do? And so they regretted it. They regretted it like instantly. But it was cool because like it was a very funny movie. And so everybody was laughing and that film really propelled me. After that, like my DMs were like hit like insanely, like actors and makeup art. It's just everybody wanted to work, like the kids. Like, and I'm not just saying to toot my own horn. It's just like in San Diego, there's not a huge film industry or film thing. So a lot of people that want to be filmmakers, they don't know where to start. And so when they see a 17-year-old or 16-year-old that gets a movie played in a theater, they're like, I want to like be a part of that team. And so people were hitting me up, and within a month, I was shooting my next feature, which was exponentially better, and you can see that on YouTube. I made that when I was like 18. It's called The Empty Iris, and that opened up a lot of doors too. I mean, that one, like we had about 120 people that contributed to it over the year and a half that we made it.
Damn.
Had like 20 locations, and so we made that, and that was a lot of hard work to make. But we had a screening at Balboa, and I'll just fast track it. I was a big fan of Jonny Robbins. He lives in San Diego. The Tony Robbins family lives in San Diego. They were famous for having the Del Mar Castle or whatever. And so I hit him up on Instagram saying that he inspired me and it'd be amazing if he showed up. I didn't think he'd actually show up. And the movie's playing. And one thing that we did at the movie was we scored it with like 17 local bands. And so like all the local bands, like 2 days before the screening, would put out on their Instagram profiles that have like 2,000, 3,000 teenagers that follow them from San Diego, saying, "Hey, we're in a movie! Isn't that wild? It's Balboa Park." And so the theater was like a fire hazard. Like people were sitting in the aisles and people were lapping up on their laps. Like it was crazy. Like seeing that. Like I would turn around and it was like the people were moshing.
How do you know how many people came? Like what was the capacity of the theater?
The capacity of the theater was about 220. And people were lapping and in the aisles. And so there was 300, 350 people like in each screening. I mean, I'm probably over exaggerating, but it got to the point where the venue owners had to come in and kick people out because it was like, this is a fire hazard. So then people were like being grabbed out of their seats and at that point people were like, Johnny, I saw like the first 20 minutes, but then I had to leave. Like it was really wild. Like it was really a cool experience. But I say it to illustrate the fact that like my phone was off, and then after the screening I came home and I turned on my phone, and it was Jarek Robbins and his wife. They took a picture in front of like the line and in front of like the poster, and they texted me saying, "Hey, we came, but we couldn't get a seat, so we left." I was like, "Oh, that's not the impression that I wanted to make. I didn't say them a
I
seat."
mean,
Yeah,
it's like making an impression, like nonetheless, right? It's
yeah, it is. And
Did you do
so
that with other like celebrities, or was he like the only person that you hit up?
I did it. I hit him up, and I was a big fan of his, so I was glad that he made the effort. And then I also did like a Google search of San Diego influencers or San Diego celebrities, because I knew that like if I had people with a lot of influence show up and actually like me and like the film and post about it, then it could generate good things for my career. And I think Jarek was and his wife were the only ones that showed up. Jarek and Amanda, very nice people. So, there's some like them and Tom and Lisa are probably like some of the nicest people I ever met. I didn't know that you could be like that nice and like also successful before I met them. But they hit me up saying they wanted me to make stuff for them, and so for a few months I was going over to their house and videotaping and creating small documentaries and interviewing some of their friends, and I met some really cool people through that. I met Rockwell doing that. Rockwell was a friend of theirs, and then I started getting into impact theory and charisma on command and all that. And I noticed that in impact theory, Tom Bilyeu wanted to make movies. I didn't know that. Like randomly, he just said then in one of his interviews, like, "Hey, I want to build a movie studio." And I said, "Oh man, I gotta like pitch myself to him." And I noticed he was going to be in Anaheim at a convention, and I like for a second I told myself
just for a little like a little background for like people that don't know Tom. You know, like give a little just blurb about Impact Theory and Tom.
The founders of Quest Nutrition. I think their claim to fame is they're the fastest growing company, 57,000%. and I think it took them 5 years for the company to be worth $1 billion. Like they do Quest bars, like you see them at airports and shit. And I'm sure they have like protein and other like they have chips also. And now what he does is he interviews very successful people and celebrities like Neil deGrasse Tyson and John Travolta and Tim Ferriss, and you just type in Impact Theory on YouTube. Really good stuff. If you listen to what Tom says, your life will be better. And I saw that, and I was a big fan of his entrepreneurial, success. And he's making movies, so I have to meet him. I see that he's at a convention in Anaheim because he also makes comics. I guess he's going to do comics and movies. And I tell myself that the tickets are probably sold out because it's like the next morning. I'm like, I shouldn't even try. The tickets are sold out. I'm not going to be able to get in. But I last minute go, well, let me just check. And there's like tickets left. And so I buy them. And then the next morning I'm driving up to try to find him. And I'm obviously rehearsing what I'm going to say. And I wait. And then Tom comes. And it's really weird, like seeing like someone who you've seen like on a screen for the first time, like in person. It's really odd. I thought he'd be taller. But anyways, he was very nice, very nice. He gave me a lot of good advice. He basically said, work for your mentors. That's basically what his advice was. Work 90 days for free. And if I don't add value, you keep me or you lose me or something, like,
yep.
And the thing about that is he didn't really pay much attention to like me, like going, hey, I want to work for you until I mentioned Jarek. Like when he was like, Jarek Robbins, like once I had like a name that like was, self-improvement and hey, if he vetted me, like he would trust me, that's when he's like, oh, okay, that's interesting. Well, why don't you email Lisa, which is his wife? And I did that. And then they invited me to their house to film something, to basically audition. They had a bunch of other videographers come by because they were looking for a videographer at the time. And my video fucking kicked ass compared to all the other ones. The other ones sucked ass. Mine was fucking dope as fuck, and they loved it. And they offered me the job on the spot once seeing it.
And what was your since we're getting into like the mentor stuff, like what was your intention? First, you did some work with Jarek Robbins, Tony Robbins' son, and then with Tom, like because you wanted to make movies, right?
Yes.
But these guys weren't, I guess, currently weren't making movies like you weren't helping them to make movies at the time. So like, what was your intention? Like, kind of like getting in their circle and stuff, and like, what do you think you got out of it, out of the relationship?
Well, the intention. The intention for Tom was to make movies. The intention was like, hey, if I work for him for 2 years, and we start making the movies in like a year, he's gonna be like, you know what, Johnny, I want like for Tom, it literally was like, I want to be at the groundwork of Disney when it happens. It just took a little bit longer. With Jarek, however, the intention, I think, I was just a big fan of I just wanted to learn like from him and being around him and it's funny when I was looking back, like you can say there was an intention, but at that age, I think I was 18, 19. I I didn't really I didn't really know exactly what the path forward is going to be. I was just taking opportunities as they came, and I was like, "This is a good opportunity. Like, I'll take it." So I didn't have necessarily a huge intention there. Now that I've lived with you guys and Gerald and Will, and like been around Tom for a year, I understand how methodical you have to think about your future. And so now, like when I approach people, there probably is an intention. But back then, before I really had my brain around like the strategy around everything, I just thought it could be a really cool opportunity. I was a big fan. And
It's like, let's see where this goes type of thing.
yeah, it was one of those. It was one of those. But for Tom, it definitely was. I want to prove myself to him. I want to show him my talent. And one day, and hey, I'm sure this will still happen. Like we're all still very young, and life's long. One day, maybe Tom and I will make a movie together. We'll see. I don't know. But,
Yeah, I don't doubt
but
it.
that was the intention. As I was there and I started feeling everything out, I started realizing, okay, probably the best thing to do here is to just learn from all these very talented and creative and successful people. And I'm glad I did because, like, at the same time, I forgot to mention this. I was offered to direct a horror film with a budget of $250,000, $350,000. I got offered that a few weeks before Lisa offered me the job at Impact Theory. And so, like, it was a big thing in my mind having to decide, like, oh, I just got offered like a big movie. Like compared to what I just did, I shot a movie for $6,000, a $250,000 movie. Some really nice ladies in Del Mar. Like I could do that, and I could just have that be my breakout. But there was something so there's something so I don't know what it was. Something so seductive about like working for Tom, like in Los Angeles. But I'm glad I made that choice because Tom says it was a bad choice. When I told Tom was like, "Dude, Johnny, that's the stupidest thing you could have done. You should have chosen the movie." But looking back at it, like through Tom's friendship and employment, I met like a lot of cool people, like you, like Gerald, like Will, like this is now really inside baseball. But I met a lot of like really talented people that I've learned way more about than just movies, just life. Like doing it. Like if I would have taken the movie, I would have still lived with my parents, and I would have still anyways. I did that, and then through Tom, I also met a lot of cool connections that have furthered my career even more than that movie would have. That movie probably would have. Well, no, it wouldn't have sucked. It would have been really good. But I'm glad I chose that path, and that kind of takes me up to where I am now. So that was like my whole. That was my answer. That was my 15-minute long answer to your question.
That's great.
How started making movies. That was the whole path right there.
It's a crazy story. I mean, it's how many, like right now, how many feature films have you made?
I say 3. I mean, if you're really being like granular, then you would say like 2.5. But I would say 3. My last one was supposed to be 90 minutes, but I cut out a lot of it. Ended up being at 45. But I consider that. It doesn't feel like a short, so I consider it a feature. So I say 3.
And people can check those out on YouTube, right? Your channel is what, Jonny Santana?
Yeah, Jonny Santana movies or something. They totally can. Just type in.
I'll put a link in the description. So we kind of skipped over one part, which is like after high school, you didn't really go to film school, right? And so I wanted to ask you about your thoughts on like film school and where, I mean, obviously you didn't go, so you don't believe it's necessary, really.
I don't think it's necessary at all.
Yeah.
I think it is helpful to some people because when you go to film school, like you're going to school with like Arnold Schwarzenegger's son and like Francis Ford Coppola's daughter. Like when you go to USC or UCLA or like a high ranking film. Like I have a friend who's going to film school with Martin Scorsese's daughter.
Really?
And Scorsese's daughter, she's my age, and my friend like does makeup with her. Like it's like what? Like it's like what the fuck? I mean, if I was in fucking film school, man, you know how like socially, I would be killing the fucking
You're a
game.
social butterfly, yeah.
Oh yeah, I would be killing it.
Like from a networking perspective, it's like
Yeah. But from an networking perspective, it's amazing because the top stars go there, like the top stars' children, and so so that's why it's good. But it kind of wasn't necessarily by design. The thing is, I was making The Empty Iris as I was leaving high school, and to make a movie, it literally devotes all your attention. It's funny, like when you're not making a movie, you forget how hard it is to make a movie. But it's like running a startup or a business. Everything is going to shit at all times, and it's your job to make it completely better. And so I still had like 6 to 8 months of left of The Empty Iris to make that movie when I graduated high school. And so it was kind of like I can't go to film school because I've already taken up 50 kids' time. And to make these scenes and make these movies, I have to finish it. And so, and as I was finishing the movie and I was delivering a product, all the opportunities arose of Jarek and Tom.
Were you planning on it initially, or?
I applied. I didn't get in. I applied though, but I'm glad I didn't.
Where do you apply to? Honestly. Like USC or?
Yeah, I applied to the big ones like USC, UCLA, NYU. But like you also hear stories like I just heard a story about Paul Thomas. Are you familiar with Paul Thomas Anderson?
Yeah.
I heard a story that he got accepted and went to NYU, and on his first day, his writing teacher said something like, "If you want to make Terminator 2, then this NYU isn't for you." And Paul Thomas Anderson was thinking, "Terminator 2 is a great fucking movie. What are you talking about?" And so the first one of the assignments was to write a 2-page screenplay or to write like just a short film, small draft. And so what he did was he found the script of a Pulitzer Prize winning writer, and he plagiarized it. He just turned that and put his name on it to see what the teacher would give, and the teacher gave him a D. And he was like, okay, well if NYU can't recognize Pulitzer Prize winning writing, then I'm out. And so he left after a week of NYU. He left. Got his money back, I think, and then he put that into a movie. And within 2 or 3 years, he was working with Gwyneth Paltrow and Samuel L. Jackson on his movie Heart 8. So you hear stories like that, and I mean, what I tell people that ask me if they should go to film school, and again, like I'm nobody to give that answer to. I'm only 22. I haven't made a big movie yet, but what I've gathered was that you can do anything you want in whatever path you want in life, and it's really about like choosing the path that you think will bring you joy on the way. Like I really don't like structured things. I don't like turning in assignments. I don't like people telling me what to do mostly. And so me going to film school, I would not like that. Like it would be very oppressive for my creativity and my spirit. But some people don't like the entrepreneurial like path of like emailing a lot of people, locations, building teams, getting a bunch of people together and planning it all out. People don't like that. They would prefer to go to film school because the structure of it would make them happier. And both paths have proven to create great directors. So I would just say choose the path that they're both right. Choose the path that you think you're going to be happier on. That's like the advice that I normally give.
But like, regardless of like whatever you do, it seems like just actually making movies is probably like the best way to learn, right?
Oh yeah, and that's what all like the masters say. I listen to like an hour or 2 hours of director interviews every day. I've been doing that for like a year and a half now. And whenever someone asks Scorsese or Spielberg or you name it, Tarantino, like name your favorite directors. Whenever someone asks them, what should I do? Like how can I come? They always say, you have an iPhone, make a movie. That's the best way to learn. Like that's literally their answer to everything. And so take their word for it. The more you make movies, the better you're going to get. So making them is probably the best bet. It also, like whenever you deliver a finished product, just like in my story, people notice. Like I finished some movies and people noticed, and I got opportunities every single time. And so having a finished product is very important too.
So let's say I know nothing about filmmaking, and like for some reason I've just been struck by lightning, like inspired by some beautiful or like filmmaking You know, I've just watched like Stanley Kubrick or something like that.
Yeah.
Um, like what curriculum would you give me like to like just like a boot camp and like a year to become like really really good
Okay.
at just making movies?
So what I would say is the first thing is, yeah, I think you get good. I don't think you get really really good, but I think you can get good in a year. And what I would say is, first step is watch one movie every night, and not just like what Netflix recommends you. I would go on like the IMDb top 250, like they have a list of like the top rated films of all time, or maybe go to AFI greatest films of all time 100 films. And that's already like 350 films, so that'll last you a year. So watch every single one of those every night. Don't discriminate. Watch every single one, even if they're foreign films. Foreign films are probably some of the best. Do that, because the first step in making movies is developing taste. Like what making movies is, what making any art is starting to shape something, and then you cross-check that with the taste you have in your brain. And if you have bad taste in movies and you cross-check with what you're making, you're going to make a bad film. And your films are always going to start off bad, like in the writing or in the editing, they're always going to start off bad. That's your job to shape it. And what you're shaping is with your taste. So working on your taste of watching great movies is the first step. And then I would say maybe for like the first quarter, well, just 12 weeks in a quarter, I would say make a short film every weekend. And so for the first 5 days of the week, I would say write like a 2 minute film, and that's like 2 pages, and cast and find one new location every week. So train you to be a producer, a new location every week. You could use the same actors because you could build relationships with them and learn how to act, how to direct actors. And so every week for the first quarter, you're making a small movie on your iPhone on the weekends. So that'll teach you how to edit. It'll teach you how to write. It'll teach you how to plan and get people together. Maybe the next quarter, I would say, focus on making like a short film you're proud of. So I would say in the first 2 weeks or week and a half of that quarter, I would say like really like write something that, when you make movies, one thing that you want to learn how to do is how to express ideas. And I know that sounds so like broad, but what I mean is, like where great art comes from and great artists like emerge is when they have a phenomenal craft in their art, as well as they have something to say. And a lot of the times when you're making your first movie, it's going to be very derivative. Like my first films were exact copies of other movies, because I didn't know how to think for myself. I didn't know what ideas I wanted to express, so I was just copying what I saw. But as you make movies and as you develop your craft, you're going to start to go, okay, wow, like I understand the craft now. Now I can say what I want to say. So look within yourself in the second quarter of what's something that you actually like want to say. Like where I start off with that is, what's something that's emotionally bothering me, and like what's a problem that I see in myself that I want to like fix through a character. That's a great place to start, because it's always very personal. And focus on that quarter. Focus on making one short film that you're very proud of, that maybe you use 3 or 4 locations, and you use maybe like 10 or 12 actors, 10-15 minutes rather than the 2 minute stuff you were doing. Make another one of those the next quarter. Learn from your mistakes this whole time watching movies. And then the last quarter, write your feature screenplay. You have 3 months. Like just write the first draft. Maybe even get a writing partner, because writing partners are great. Someone that's experienced, because then you can learn and bounce off ideas. And then at the end of those 3 months, figure out how you're gonna make the plan of how you're gonna make it next year. Like if you do that over the course of a year, and as your sole focus, you're gonna get like very good at making movies very quickly.
Dude,
That would be my plan.
what a plan. And then
Yeah.
year 2, make the feature.
Yeah, and then year 2, just make it. It's not going to be very good. I promise you. Well, hey, it might.
And it doesn't matter, right? It's all about, it's just about the experience, right?
That's the main thing. It doesn't matter. Like you just need to learn how to do it. And if you're young, and you tell anybody you've made a feature, like their first thought isn't like, oh, is it great? Like the first thought is, wow, he put his discipline into making a 90-minute movie. That's a lot of work. That's people's first thoughts, and that goes a long way. Like when you prove you can do something.
Yeah, and you were saying yourself, like your second movie was like exponentially better than the first one, right? It's because you probably like you fuck up probably so many times for the first movie, right? And so the second one is just like, damn, like I'm an expert, you know. And then you probably mess up a bunch of times the second one. The third time is just like just keeps getting better. I'm not saying
the second one's a masterpiece at all, but what I am saying is, for an 18-year-old, I'm very proud of what what was made. And I did learn a lot. And also, whenever you make one, people are going to notice. And so, like, your team's going to start to build, and people around the community are going to notice, especially if you have like a public premiere and a public screening. Like, people are going to start to see who you are, and your opportunities are going to rise. But yeah, I would that would be my curriculum. Maybe you could type it out whenever you do the notes, and people could see it.
Yeah, that sounds like a good plan. But that kind of gets into another question I wanted to ask you, which is like, how do you make your first feature film? So like, I kind of want to get into like, let's say like a feature film like 101 guide, you know, like all the aspects of it, because we kind of glossed over it. But I like, just from talking to you and living with you while you're making like a movie, you know, just like, it's like there's a lot of moving pieces, you know.
Yeah, there is. Okay, I'll give you. So, do you want me to give you like what the way you should actually do it is, or the way that I did it? Because the way I did it is not the way you should actually do it.
So actually, yeah, I think both. I think first, like, how you recommend doing it, and then some mistakes that you made that you have that you can share so that people don't repeat them, you know, and like save a lot of money and time.
Okay, yeah.
But as far as like the like making the first movie, like if you can talk about like just the basic gear to get started, and then all the steps like from like writing the script, assembling the team, like booking locations, scheduling like shoot dates, renting camera equipment, you know, like all the nitty gritty stuff, you know.
You're giving me PTSD now, just saying all those things. Oh man, yeah. I didn't mention that I made a feature film while I was working in LA. With I'll just like drop it real quick, with Aaron Stark. He was the one viral for his TEDx talk. I was almost a school shooter. I was making that. I was shooting that in San Diego on the weekends while I was working full time in LA. And oh man, that is tough. We'll get to that eventually. But the way you should actually make a movie, and I would say if this is your first feature, is what I'll say. This is your first feature film. You're a new director. I would make a film that takes place. First off is the writing. Okay, let's go with the writing. With the writing, write something you know you can actually do. Don't write something where you go and then suddenly we're in Paris and the Eiffel Tower explodes and 15 million people. Like write something that you know you can actually pull off. Because one of the things that starts to look amateur with filmmakers is when they try to pull off things that they just don't have the budget or resources to. And I know you want to believe everything can happen. Like let's say you want to shoot that scene where like in Paris an Eiffel Tower explodes. Like, shoot it. Don't actually like write it in a way where like you see it. Maybe you write it in a way where like you have a French character in the film and he's crying, and the person arrives home. He says, "What's wrong? What happened?" And then he explains it like there. I know seeing is better, but if you're running on low resources and you're doing your first feature, write something that you know you can actually do. That's why most people's first features, like if you go to Tarantino, for example, like take place in like very limited locations. Like they do 3 or 4 locations for a feature film because they know that they can get in and out. And
was that Reservoir Dogs, his first one?
Yeah, Reservoir Dogs. Yes, my first feature film, Fruit Juice, took place in like 2 locations. Like and I did that by design, obviously, because I wanted to make it easy on me. And then once you like nail that, you can do 20. I did 20 for my next one, 20 locations. So I would say write something that takes place in 2 or 3 locations. The least amount of characters for your first one is the best for you to manage. So I would say maybe like write 5 or 6 characters max, so it's easier to cast. Think about your friends. Think about who in your friend group you can cast. But again, like if you also have access to Leonardo DiCaprio and you think you can do it, then go for it. But I'm just giving you like the easiest way to do it. And make friends with cinematography. So it's renting cameras and all that stuff can be expensive. One thing that I always did was I like made friends with the guy with the camera. So like you're always gonna like find a guy with a camera around, or like on Facebook you type in cinematographers in France. No, that's too broad. But cinematographers in Palo Alto, cinematographers in whatever city you're in, like on Facebook, and you're gonna find a lot. And cinematographers, they want to shoot, but sometimes they don't write or direct, so they can't make their own movie. So they're waiting for someone to come out to them and say, hey, I can't pay you, but you got to say you've shot a feature. So I would say try to source everything for free. I'm giving you just high level.
So like if we start from the very nitty gritty, like
okay.
like as far as like let's say just the gear to get started. Like, do you need any gear? Because you're saying you can find some people that already have gear and like
That's the
somehow
best way to
sell
do
them
it.
on the movie and like not have to pay for gear, right?
That's the
Is
best
that
way
how
to
you
do it.
would recommend people start, or would you recommend people start like shooting with an iPhone? I know you're like big on
Yeah.
that, but like what like for the first movie, like what should people get gear wise?
Uh,
And then you
for the
can rent
first
gear as well,
movie,
right?
I don't know where their budget is or what they can spend, but let's assume that they can't spend anything. Let's just assume that. I would say find a DP who shares your passion in the story and has his own gear. Because a lot of times DPs have their own lights and they have like you can find them. You definitely can find them. There's tons that they're just wanting to make a movie.
And
So I would
DP
say
is director of photography.
photography, yes. I would say try to find one and befriend them and be creative together. If you can't do that, I would say an iPhone is great. I mean, like that's what all the greats say is make a movie for iPhone. They have like lenses for iPhones now. They're called Moment lenses. Cost a couple $100. No, actually, that's not. Yeah, no, that is true. If you buy one for $100, you can buy like two or three, 300. I was lucky that my dad gave me a camera. You know, he gave me like a Canon T2i, not the best camera in the world, but I had one for my first movie, so I shot my own movie. You can also shoot your own movie too if it's your first one.
Do you need microphones? You need like lighting, like all that stuff.
The thing that people always say is kind of cliche now because they say it so much, but visual doesn't matter. It's the audio that matters. So making sure that you're in a non-noisy place and you have very good audio. You can also like find for my second movie, I had a cool guy named Chris Velasquez who just hit me up on Instagram saying, "Hey, I do audio. Like, can I do audio for your next movie? Can I record it? I want to get into that." And so like I would say like the real 80-20 happens when you find people that it's their passion to do that. So I would say find someone who's passionate it is to record audio and say, "Hey, are you free for the next 2 months every weekend?" Like then you could. Well, don't say that because that's a bit aggressive. Just say, "Hey, from time to time, I'll call you for a movie shoot. Are you happy with that?" And then they'll be happy, and then eventually they'll get so invested they'll be like, "Okay, now I need to finish the audio," and so they'll be like, and so eventually they'll get offended if you get somebody else because they've been working so hard on it. So I would say the real 80-20 is to find your team members, your crew members, an audio guy and a camera guy, and then actors. That's all you need. All you need is an audio guy, a camera guy, and actors. You can do everything else yourself.
And how would you find those people? Like, let's say you didn't have your connections right now. Like, who would you ask, or like, would you go on Facebook or?
Yeah. So the way I found the first thing is Facebook. So I'm sure that there's tons of groups everywhere around the world about filmmaking, and so I can guarantee you're going to find someone there. Just make a post about your story. Just type in Facebook sound, Facebook DPs. Sometimes they might want to get paid. Don't do that when you can find somebody. One thing that I did to find people was I went to my local community college back when everything was still open, like years ago. And for example, I went to like community college and there was an orchestra course or a music course, and I asked the teacher, "Hey, in your next class, can you ask if there's any students that want to do film scores?" And then I got an email saying, "Hey, I found this guy who wants to do film score," and then I met with him and he was like, "Yeah, I'll do it for free." But like students, definitely schools. Students will do anything for free. And so definitely going to schools and finding like the photography classes for a cinematographer, or going to the sound classes or music classes for a sound guy or music. That's a good place to go. Just literally just go and visit them. Make an appointment with a teacher. Don't tell them you're not a student. Just go, or tell them you're not a student, so you're making a movie. And Facebook. Those are the ways that I've used. Social media. But if you don't have a social media following, it's not going to really help you out. Those are like the two ways that I've sourced talent. So
Okay.
building the team is probably one of the first steps you do, nitty gritty, and then
That's funny because like it's a equipment question, but like the answer is basically find people, right? Which is funny.
yeah, I know. Like I'm sorry if
No, not at all.
I
Just observing.
because like people will have the equipment, and it's always best to, like have people because then your movie gets better.
Yeah.
And also you need to learn as a director to manage people anyways, right? Like
Yeah.
you need to learn like work. Like that's one of the biggest thing all the greats say as well in their interviews. They go, yeah, one of the skills you need to have is people. Like you know how to manage people and work with them, because if you can't collaborate, then you can't make a movie. And so starting that off in your first film with getting a DP or a sound guy, I think will be good for their creative development rather than doing everything themselves.
Okay, cool.
Which I've done before too, though.
And then, how about scripting, or like basically coming up with a script? How would you, or whatever the first couple steps are? You know better than me. But...
Well, yeah, the script should be the first step. I made the mistake of not having that be the first step in literally all my movies. I wrote them while I shot them, all of them, which is crazy. But
I think it also shows your tendency to like massive action and just like getting started, right?
And you just do things. But what I would say, if it's your first feature, you've never done it before, I would put like a timer on like 2-3 months. Because here's your 80/20. Your first feature is not going to be, I mean, unless you're Orson Welles, and hey, you totally can be. I'm not saying you're not, but unless you're Orson Welles, your first feature is not going to be Citizen Kane. Like he did that 25 like a wild. Like you just want to make a movie, and so what I would say is just whatever the script is in 2-3 months, just shoot that. Because people also fall onto like the trap where they write a script and they keep writing and they don't shoot anything for 2 years because they don't think it's good enough. And in that 2 years, you could have made a movie that would have taught you so much about filmmaking that the next one would have been like exponentially better than whatever that could have been. So I would say like put a time limit, 2-3 months on writing a script. A feature script's about 90 pages. It's a minute per page. That's roughly what it is. And just write it. Get people to read it, edit it around. But I would just say like really just try to truncate that timeline and get something you're proud of quickly. But it doesn't have to be perfect. Like the main thing about the first film is, and the first movies, it doesn't have to be perfect. That's not the point of this. The point of this is to start working on it. So I would say that. I mean, there's books you could read. There's books called Save the Cat. There's a book called Writing Screenplays That Sell. There's a book called The Screenwriter's Bible. If you read those, then you're going to be a way better screenplay writer than before you read them. So like I said, you could read those as you write your script. But yeah, once you have the script, what you do is, hopefully, if it's 3 or 4 locations, you start scheduling it. Now, like there's a few ways to do this. Most of the time, people make movies in 3-week segments. Like they shoot for like 5 to 6 days, 10-hour days, and they take a break. Like that's how normally it's done. But that's when you're paying people. It's very hard to get people to work for free, like for 3 weeks straight.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're doing it like scraps, like the way I was doing it, is you would probably plan a shoot every weekend on Saturday or Sunday, and it's going to take you a while to film the whole movie. Like that's how Christopher Nolan made his first movie. Christopher Nolan made Following, which was a festival hit, and then after that he made Memento. But he made Following with a bunch of 3 or 4 of his friends, a few locations, and for months they just shot every weekend. I think maybe for almost a year they just shot every weekend until they had the film ready to be made, and then they cut it. But that's for my movies, Fruit Juice and The Empty Iris. I shot once or twice a weekend, with Just Another Tuesday as well, once or twice every weekend. And eventually, after like 8 months, 7 months, like it becomes a long process because if you're shooting a feature, it takes like 20 days to shoot that, And if you're shooting once a weekend, it takes a long time. But don't think about that. Just it's like chopping wood. Like just put the next one down, chop it, next one down, chop it. Eventually, if you're
for booking the locations, because like for you it might sound obvious now, but like how do you find locations for your movie, and like how do you find it, and how do you have to pay for them, or I know you have some tips about like finding locations for free, but like what's that process? What does it look like?
Well, you first draft. So let's say you wrote a movie that takes place in an apartment, a park, a bar, and a street. So the great news is, if you don't live in LA, you can shoot without permits anywhere you want, as long as you're charming. That's the great news. For an apartment, I would say ask all your friends, and if you live in an apartment, like take a look. Does this look the way you want it? Just ask around, ask friends of friends. Like think back, really think back, because that's how you get it for free. If you can't get it for free, then you go to Airbnb, but that's going to cost you, and it's going to add up. So one thing you could also do is some things that people do, like for example, they did it in Mission Impossible. They think about what locations they have, and then they write a story that fits there. Like they go, I can for sure get this location because my friend does this. I'm gonna write a movie that takes place somewhere like that. So in Mission Impossible, they literally just write out like the 6 or 7 big stunts they want to do in the movies and what cities. Then they find a story that fits that. That's how they do those movies.
Mm-hmm.
So you could do that. But let's say you want to film at the park. At the park, you could film whatever the fuck you want because it's a public place and normal people don't care, especially if you have a small crew. Street, same thing. I literally filmed a car chase for Just Another Tuesday. I didn't tell anybody about it. It's just a street. I didn't tell anybody about it, and I had 20 people running around. It was like crazy. Nothing happened. The cops have been called to my sets a lot of times before. They're mostly just in awe, like, "Whoa, it's a movie." But again, I filmed these not in LA. If you film in LA, I'm sure it's way different.
Mm-hmm.
I've never filmed in LA.
And then, like, do you have any stories of like? I know you've booked like a couple, like I guess more original or like different places.
Yeah.
Like how do you get those? Like I think you mentioned to me like a restaurant or
Yeah. So those places are usually businesses, and if they're businesses, then they have their phone number or email on their website. And so what I would do is I would just call them, cold call them, leave a voicemail, because I normally do that over email. Because in email you can't really get across like your passion for something. So I normally just leave voicemails and I go, "It's my dream. I want to sell." So like, you just really sell that as your dream. People want to help people with their dreams. Like they feel good about that. And so I've done that. And sometimes they let you do it for free. Like if you just talk about like if you're a young person, they could let you do it free. Like if you say you're a student or it's been your passion. If you're older, I don't know if they're as forgiving. You could say, "I'll put your name in the credits, and if it goes big, it'll be good for you." But sometimes you have to pay. In general, though, like what helped me with Just Another Tuesday, I booked a lot of locations for very little money. Like very, very little money. It was because I was making a movie that I was telling people was going to stop mass shootings. Like that was the goal. The goal was to, like,
there was a mission behind it. Yeah.
Yeah, there was a mission behind it. So like it's a film about mental health, and if you have a mission behind your movies and you ask people for stuff like help or the locations like we're talking about, you tend to get a lot lower prices or even free. So that's something that you could add to the creation of your script. How can I make this more inspiring for people to want to help? And you can position yourself that way. But in general, they have websites that you can just call. I mean, you can film it any place you want if you're just persuasive enough. Like that's like the way I look at it. So just find a way to persuade them. And if you can't get your number one location, I mean, there's so many bars in the city you live in, I'm sure. And there's so many restaurants in the city you live in. Just keep trying. Eventually someone's going to say yes.
Mm-hmm.
At the end of the day, if you have the money, people go into business to make money. So like if you have the money and you can say, "Hey, it's only an hour and we'll cover how much you would have." Also work on their hours too, right? Like that's just say like work on your hours. Like a lot of bars don't open at 11 a.m. So you go, "We'll film from 11 to 2 before people even show up, and we'll pay $100 to cover the guy that needs to watch us, or pay $50 to cover the guy that needs to watch us." Like if you can like really work on their hours too, like don't ask them to close down or anything, then that helps out a lot as well.
Nice. Okay, so that's the location scouting. What's next?
Building the team. Well, when you're filming, it's really an endurance game. Like you have to learn how to build a community, because when you're filming a feature and you're doing it on weekends, one thing that I would advise is pick people that are passionate about what they're doing. I've had instances where I've picked people that are just like, "Okay, fuck it, I want to be in a movie," and then they realize 3 months later, like, "Oh shit, every Saturday of mine's going into this," and then they want to quit. And you're like, "We shot like half your character. We just can't quit now." Like that's happened to me so many times. And so what I would say is, from the beginning, like really drive the point and really try to investigate, is this something that they want to do for a living? Because then they have skin in the game. Then this helps them. One thing also I would say is ask about the family situation, and that's more for like younger people. Because for example, I've worked with people who I found out were homeless, and hey, like it's the world is sometimes a hard place, and I was there for them and helped them out, but like that was the most stressful shit of all time. Like not knowing like if your person was going to survive a cold night, and like if they were getting food, like and I don't know if that's really a big problem, you know, like in other people's movies, but it has been in mine. I just never looked into their own situation or like really understood like their living situation, or it's so I mean I guess in general like when you employ, it isn't employment, but like when you go to work at a company, I'm sure they run a background check, or they do a really thorough interview to see if you're someone who's reliable. Do that, and you have to learn how to make it a community. Like you have to learn how to foster a community. Like if you can make your team members feel like they're hanging out with friends every time they work with you, or on your film set, then it helps you out so much. Like I've had so many people start dating like on my movie sets, and I'm like, oh my god, this is so good. It can be bad. It's also like so good because they can't wait. Like they're texting me like, hey, can we shoot like on Wednesday? I really want to see it. And I'm like, oh yes, they want to fucking shoot. And so try to figure out a way to foster marriages. No, try to way to foster just friendship.
Yeah, you got to make it fun, basically.
Yeah, and make them look forward to it.
Like creating an environment that people really want to come to.
Yeah, no, exactly. If they're working for free, you better be nice. Feed them. Make sure you feed them every single time. That's one important thing. Like, I just bought them pizza, but again, we were kids, so like, you know. So I would say that, and then one of the things that I was touching on earlier is it's gonna take a long time. Just put your nose to the table and just the next scene. What's the next scene? Just planning the next scene, location for next scene. Like during the week, do all your planning, and then and storyboarding. If people are new to movie making, storyboarding I think there's a big debate on storyboarding. Huge debate. Some people think it's the worst thing ever. Some people think it's like what film is. I'm in the camp that if you don't storyboard your movie, you're not getting the most potential out of it. I think you need to design every single shot. Mm-hmm. And when you storyboard a movie, you know exactly what shots you need. And so you can show up on the day and go, I don't need a wide shot at all because it's not going to be part of the editing sequence. And so you just save yourself an hour like setting something up over here. Some people don't storyboard and they go, we want to be on set and be like nimble. We want to like know. We want to get there and find the best way to do it. Because if you storyboard, then you suddenly become blind to like the natural things that come up, which does happen. I've missed out on some really good shots that I thought back because I storyboarded. So storyboard, am I helping you out here?
This is great.
Okay.
I'm actually curious about like how do you actually storyboard? Is it just like
I have some right here. It's funny. You just like draw.
Let's see.
You just draw like the action of a sequence.
Okay.
And like the motion of the characters and whether it's a wide or close. So when you make a movie, you have to have seen the movie 1,000 times in your head already. Like Steven Spielberg, I think I heard him say he reads a script 200 times before he even thinks about like starting to shoot it. It's 200 times.
Yeah. It's like you're visualizing it. You know exactly what the end product is going to look like.
Yeah.
It's crystal clear in your mind. Yeah. And then you just have to like match your footage with what you have in your head.
Exactly. And one thing that helps that is the storyboarding. So you take what's in your head, you draw it out, and then on set you execute on what you draw it out. Like that's the best way to match what's in your head to a movie. Scorsese does it. Ari Aster does it. Wes Anderson. You know what I heard yesterday? Wes Anderson. He does animatics of his movies. Like he.
So it's like Pixar type stuff.
He does animatics every single one of his live action movies before he even shoots, and he only executes the animatics. So he shows them to the actors and the producer, and he goes, "This is what we're getting. This is it. This is what we're getting." And so like he's seen the movie. He voices all the actors himself, like in the movie, and he has the exact pacing. And he literally just goes on set and gets that.
Wow.
That's wild. I mean, you could kind of guess it based on his movies. His movies are so like crafted so well. But like if you go down the list of like the greatest directors, like you see a pattern of storyboarding.
Mm-hmm.
Then again, there's directors that don't do that and they swear completely against it. And hey, like that's their approach too. I'm the storyboard guy.
Yeah.
So you storyboard while you're shooting. During the week, you're planning out the shoot. You text your actors maybe like the Tuesday or the Monday. No, actually, here's one thing that I did that always helped out. It's kind of like you're dating someone, right? At the end of every shoot, when you're done, let's say you're shooting something this Saturday. or today's Saturday, right? Today's Sunday. Let's say you're shooting something today is Sunday with your actors and your crew. Don't let them leave until you say, hey, are you guys free on Thursday? Well, everybody is together in one room. Because then when you're doing it through text, it's like they're at home and they're eating like chips, they're eating TV, or they're watching TV, or they're at work, and they just don't feel like making a movie. Well, like on set, they just had a great day making a movie. Like, oh, that was fun. Like, okay, hey guys, before you go, how's Thursday or Saturday? And they go, okay, yeah. And then everybody says it, and then it's set.
Yeah.
Like so asking what the next day will be like on the day is very important. But that's a good way to build momentum. Don't ever go like 2 weeks without shooting. If you're making a movie and the thing is a marathon, it's like it's keeping it happening. Like if you slip up and go like a month without shooting, oof.
You just lose momentum.
Yeah, people are going to move on. It's really just about like keeping it going. If you have scenes, also one thing that's very important when you make a movie like this is you have to be the one that's most free. If you are the director or writer or you're the producer making it, you have to be the one that is available whenever they are. Like if an actor goes, hey, I can't do Saturday anymore, but can you do Tuesday? And you had a date with someone on Tuesday, or you had a meeting with someone on Tuesday, like you better cancel that and do what your actor wants. Because as soon as your team members start thinking like, wow, like I'm on this guy's time, like they're gonna start wanting to do it way less. So I would say that like make yourself as available as possible. I even did that when I was working at Impact Theory. Like sometimes like some things got moved up. Like on Wednesday or Thursday, I just told my employer, hey, like I just can't come in Thursday. I just can't come in. And then because I mean, well, I don't want to get anything on record here. But filmmaking is my top priority always. So that's very important when you're making movies. You're the one that's always free for everybody. Yeah. And you just shoot till it's done. The shooting stuff, they're gonna figure out like making the small movies, earlier in the year. And then when it comes to the editing, I guess it's interesting. The cool thing about making a movie over a year on the weekends is that during the week you can edit everything. And so like when you're halfway done shooting a movie, you have half the movie edited already in your computer, and you're seeing how it's looking, and you're going, okay, wow, this scene doesn't fucking work, so I guess we don't need that scene in the future, or this scene is really cool, we should bring that scene back later. And so one thing that happens when you're shooting a movie in 3 weeks, like real movies do, very truncated, you're kind of doing it in a vacuum, where like you're hoping everything is turning out well, then in the edit you build it. But one thing about doing it on the weekends is you can really know what movie you're having. You could rewrite if you need to. So basically, by the time you're done shooting, you're gonna have an edited film. It's gonna be rough, and you're gonna have to trim it down a lot. But you're gonna have an edited movie, and the way that goes is once you have the edit fully locked, is you bring it to your sound guy. It's always you lock your picture, you lock the movie, and then you bring it to the sound guy, and the sound guy does all his work on it. And then you bring that to the composer, and the composer does all his work on it. It's normally those 3 stages. And for me, editing has lasted maybe like 5 months. Every single time, post-production was about 5-6 months. Shooting was about a year. So that's generally how the timeline breaks down on me. Whiplash, one of the greatest films, of the past decade, was shot and edited in 6 weeks. Jesus. Because they were trying to meet the Sundance deadline. That's wild.
And that was his first movie, right? As well.
That was he had made a feature before that, like the way I did, like a self-funded musical, at 23, and then that was the first movie he made, like with J.K. Simmons, like with a big actor. I think 25, 26, yeah.
Wow.
Wild.
That's
right.
Wild.
That's insane. That's insane. But when it comes to that, it's like he just had such a great script, right? Like his script was just so tight. Like if you look at the movie, it's such a tight film. Like it's just so tight, and it just
he probably put like months and months into like the
writing of it. Yeah.
I guess you said he wrote and shot in 6 weeks.
No.
He shot and edited it in 6 weeks.
Yeah, he shot and edited like 6-7 weeks.
But the script he probably spent like a couple months on, right?
I'm sure he spent a lot of time on the script getting it perfect. I'm sure he did because he had done a short about it a year before, right? So like he made the short version that went to Sundance, and then people saw it at Sundance and were like, I want to give this kid like $3 million to make the movie. and then he was able to just do it. So I'm sure that was strategic for him. He wrote the script, made the short to show the script could work, and then he made the script that he had written. So I'm almost positive that was the game plan. And he wrote La La Land. Like, that was one of the first movies he wrote. He wrote La La Land when he was in college. And after Whiplash, they were like, okay, we'll give him $10 million to make La La Land. And so he had La La Land script already ready, like a great script. And he had 7 years to think about that script. Same thing with Paul Thomas Anderson and Boogie Nights. Like, he wrote Boogie Nights when he was in his early 20s, and nobody would give him the money to make it. You know, Mark Wahlberg was in it, and not Gwyneth Paltrow, that was his next one. But no one would give him the money to make it. So he made a short called Sydney, or Hard 8, interchangeable titles, 10-minute short. And then with that, he was able to raise money to make a very small movie with Samuel Jackson and Gwyneth Paltrow before they were big. And he made that feature at like 24, 25. And then they were like, okay, this kid can make a movie. And then at 27, he made Boogie Nights. But he wrote Boogie Nights when he was like 20. And so he had 7 years to think about the movie and really make it good. And so by the time he got there, like, he had seen the movie so many times in his head, of course going to be good, because he had great taste. Damien Chazelle and Paul Thomas Anderson, they had great taste, as we were talking about earlier. Like, they've seen so many fucking movies and so many great movies that it's hard for them to make a bad movie because they know what a good movie is. I'm going on a tangent here, but
no.
But editing, I would say learn Premiere Pro. Premiere Pro, being in the industry, a lot of people say Avid is like the industry standard. So if you want to learn Avid, you can learn Avid. Avid is another editing software, but Avid or Premiere Pro, I would say, are the two good ones. Yeah, have a lot of screenings. Have like one thing that I made a mistake of fruit juice is nobody saw it. It was okay. I'm done. Let's rent the theater. It was just like that. I had no idea to do like screenings for friends, and like there were so many boring sections. I would have just known like, oh, if I would have screened that for my friend, I would just cut it out and it would have been way shorter. But I had no idea. With The Empty Iris, I did a screening. The Empty Iris was 3 hours long, and my friend was like, hey, I think you should do a screening. I was like, nah, it's perfect. Like, you should do a screening, Johnny. And so I did a screening, and people were like looking at their phones and they just couldn't like wait. And I was like, oh shit, I need to cut out an hour from this. So I would say do as many screenings as possible. With my recent film, Just Another Tuesday, I don't know if you remember this, Jeremy, but like I'm pretty sure like I asked everybody. Like, I was literally taking it. I took it to like 20 different people. I went, hey, can I come to your house? I'll bring food. I'll bring wine. That was for, like, not you, Jeremy, but that was for other people like that I said that to.
I remember seeing it in your bedroom, and it was like, it wasn't even finished, right? I think you had done the voiceover, and it was like the same actor doing all the voices.
Exactly, kind of like Wes Anderson. I even had parts that were paper towels. I even had like parts where I drew on paper towels and put those in like in the scenes that I was going to shoot.
Yeah.
But like based off audience reactions, I knew what was working, I knew what to lean into, I knew what not to lean into. So I would say after you have your first edit, have everybody you know see it, and have people that like know how to make have people that know how to make movies, as well as just friends that don't know how to make movies, because you're gonna get good reactions from both, good intel from both, and also and don't be too butthurt. Like if like, everyone has their own opinion, and it's yours that matters most, but just get the collective of opinions.
Yeah, get enough data and then see what aligns, right?
Yeah, I mean, even Scorsese does it. For The Wolf of Wall Street, I think it was 30 minutes longer than it was. He had a few screenings. The studio set up a few screenings, and they usually what they do is they give cards to the audience members, and the audience members write, and at the end the director reads all the cards, and based off of that, he cut out I think like 30 minutes, and he made it shorter. And there were some scenes that just went on too long, and he said it hurt cutting them, but he realized every single audience member was saying the same thing. And Steven Spielberg has a quote. He says, what's the actual quote? Goddamn, I'm gonna butcher it, but the basic Jamie, pull that up. the basic thing goes, the audience is the director of the film, something like that. He says the audience has final cut. That's what he says. He says the audience has final cut. Steven Spielberg loves screening his movies for audiences. He fine tunes it. Like, that's why his movies are so fucking like good, and audiences love them. Like, he watches it with the audience. He has the audience in mind the whole time, and he fine tunes it. sometimes studio heads go, "Oh, well, I like that scene. You shouldn't take it." I was like, "Hey, the audience didn't like it, or the Steven Spielberg does. That's how Steven Spielberg does it. It's really crazy." But obviously, you're making a movie for people. You better make sure the way Pixar makes movies is they have all their storyboards up for their films. I think where the company eats, they have all their storyboards up for the movies that they're going to make, like years on the line, and they have post-it notes and pens, and they invite anybody, the janitor or some guy visiting. They invite anybody to look at their films and leave a post-it note on each store on the board and go, "This scene is not good enough," or "This scene maybe he should wear a pink hat because a pink hat is funny," or in this scene. And so they do that. They crowdsource ideas. That's why Pixar movies are so good. They've crowdsourced ideas for 5-6 years to make the best movie. So protect your film in its infancy, protect it while you're making it. But as you're getting ready to put it into the world, you should definitely figure out how to tailor it so people will like it, if that makes sense.
Perennial seller, baby.
Yeah, there you go. Read that book. Read that book.
And then, okay, so now you have a movie. What do you do with it?
Oh, wow. I haven't figured that out yet.
So, like, I mean, obviously, your first movie, it's probably not the best idea to try and like go to pitch that to Netflix or whatnot, right? But like, it seems like
sure,
it's worth your while to like have a screening, kind of to have like a rewarding end to the whole like labor process, right? That you've put in so much work into.
Yeah. So, like the general thing, if nobody knows anything about movie making, the general thing is people go get it to film festivals. That's like the general thing, because people like on the off chance that there's a producer somewhere that sees it and believes in your vision, or on the lottery chance that you get into Sundance and Amazon wants to buy it for $10 million. I listen to a lot of filmmaking interviews and they basically say the same thing, that like unless it's a big festival, it doesn't matter that you went to a festival and you just spend a lot of money traveling and you get, because you have to pay to think about getting accepted. You have to pay, and then the chance of being at Sundance or like Cannes, like now they're only accepting films with like big stars. I mean, I'm not being pessimistic here, but that's what I'm hearing. I mean, Good Time was accepted in Cannes, but it had Robert Pattinson in it. Whiplash was accepted, I think, to Sundance, but it had J.K. Simmons and it had Miles Teller in it, right? So that's what they say about film festivals. One of my friends says it's film festivals are great because if you go, you meet other people that are making movies. Because a lot of people are just like, they say they make movies, but when you go to a film festival, you're actually going to people that went through the process of having an end product, and it's good networking. So that's all good. I've never really done the film festival thing because I'm just really impatient and I don't want to wait another 6 months to hear back if my movie's gonna be played anywhere after I finish it. So normally what happens is I finish a movie and I go, okay, everybody in this community, there's 100 people that like worked on it. That's like, if they all have families, like 400 people that would love to see it, let's have a screening. So I normally just like rent out a venue and like promote it on Instagram and have a screening. That's generally what I do. But you could also circumvent this whole thing in a very smart way. If the whole idea of going to a festival was that you could have someone give you a shot at making a bigger movie, you could also just finish the movie, find the email of the guy that could give you a shot at making a bigger movie and send it to him. You could always just do that, which is inadvertently kind of like what I did, right? Like I showed it to Jarek. I showed it to Tom, Bilyeu. I showed it to a friend of mine now, Dave, who was one of Tom's friends. And so once you have your film and your calling card, instead of spraying at a film festival, like spray and pray, you could just be very specific and highly targeted and just find the emails of people that you think can give you a better chance of making a bigger one next time. And that's what I did.
Can you go a little more into that to that story of like kind of what stage you're in now and how you met Dave and kind of the whole master plan behind that? Yeah.
So Dave's been a really, really good influence on me. I've learned a lot from him. He's one of Tom's friends. I think what's the company called? VMG. Yeah, I think the company's called VMG. Mm-hmm. They're the company that helped Tom with Quest, right?
So they were they were an investor in Tom's company, right?
Yeah, Quest Attrition. And so there's a really cool guy named Fred, who was Tom's publicist, and my job with Tom was to go around and film him. Sometimes I'd travel, and whenever I travel, Fred would be there because Fred was a publicist, making sure he got the right interviews going. And I was on off chance talking to Fred, and Fred asked me if I ever like would do editing work for other people, and I was like, hell yeah, I do editing work for other people. One thing, like when you're like starting out, and I'm still starting out, so it's weird giving this advice, but always say yes to new opportunities. Like always like just say yes. Eventually, as your time starts getting truncated, start saying no. But yeah, you never know who you're gonna be editing for, and I didn't know who I was gonna be editing for. I randomly got a phone call from someone who works with a company called LBI. They manage Leonardo DiCaprio and Scorsese, and I think they packaged The Irishman, and so like it's a big deal. It's like they make big movies, and I ended up getting a call and editing for someone with a connection there, and his name was Eric, and through Eric, he loved the edit that I gave him, and he asked what else I did, and I started talking about, oh yeah, I'm making a movie with Aaron Stark, 10 million views on TEDx, had 100 teenagers volunteer to make a movie to stop mass shootings, and like as I'm saying all this stuff, he's like, oh wow, this kid really follows through, and so he asked to see the movie, and he saw it, and he thought it was great. So like that's one example of doing work for somebody and then asking them to see your stuff, once you have it ready. And he thought it was great. And then over the course of a few months, after gaining his trust, he's very good friends with Dave, who is a part owner in the company LBI. And he had Dave see it, and he sold me to Dave, saying, "Hey, I know you're shooting a documentary soon. You should bring this guy along." And over the course of just working with these guys and really proving that my talent and skills and that I'm hardworking, they took interest in my stuff, and they started seeing my other movies. Randomly, Dave tells me one day, like, "Hey, I was just going through your Instagram, and I checked out some of your films on YouTube." And I was like, when I made my YouTube channel, I had no idea he was gonna be checking it out. But like that's just an example of all it takes is one, all it takes is like the right person to see your stuff. And he liked it, and now he's been helping me by reading my scripts and getting scripts read by people that works at his company, and it's been really cool. I think that there's potential here to make really big movies with their mentorship, and that couldn't have happened if I hadn't made a movie by myself. It wasn't the best movie, but I made something to prove to people that I could work for them, and everybody else could do the exact same thing. They just email somebody or find the perfect person. If you made a horror feature or a horror short and you think it's good enough to get people's attention, find a producer that does horror. Don't go for like the biggest producers. Just find someone that's mid-tier, because people who are mid-tier have connections with big people. Find someone that's mid-tier, send them the movie, and if they like it and they like you, and they think you got what it takes, like after enough emails, you're gonna find someone that's gonna champion you, and it's gonna like help you on the way up. So that's the path I went. I went very strategic with who I wanted to help mentor me and see my movies, rather than spraying and praying. But also a little bit of spraying and praying involved too. Was that succinct enough? I don't know if that was clear.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I was just waiting to see if you have more, because I mean it's really good advice. So
yeah, no, I mean like. I mean, the classic saying, "Your network is your net worth," right? Like, the five people you surround yourself the most, you become. Now, in a day and age where I could DM Jarek or email Tom, and then have my life change because of it. Just not only because of like the work that I learned doing it, but also being around these people is awesome. Like, it's not every day. Like, it's not every day you're around people with such a great minds. Like these people are just phenomenal minds.
Mm.
And nowadays you can contact them through an email. That's what you did. Right? With Tom, you sent him a website that you made saying, "I want to work for Impact there." So like, if you're very strategic and you have some good art under your belt after making movies for a few years, you can give yourself some really big opportunities by just being very strategic and emailing the right people.
I see your goals in the background on your mirror. Are those the 2021 goals, or?
That's actually a list of all the people I've murdered. It's not.
Oops.
Yeah. I know.
There's that list. My bad.
Damn it! That was the shot.
Good thing it's blurry.
Well, That's a goal for like, those are like the goals for my next 8 years. This is just like stuff to optimize for in a day. And then the left is like the habits that I need to have in order to make my goals like guaranteed. But yeah, I'm assuming you're segueing into like what my goals are.
Yeah, for 2020, I'm curious. I mean,
2021.
2021, yeah. What's
We're in 21
kind of
now.
like what yeah, what's I know you got big plans, so what are the plans?
One day we're gonna be writing down 2072. Isn't that wild? We're gonna be like 70 when we do that. Holy shit.
That is crazy to think about.
Yeah. So my goals. I've written 4 movies over quarantine, and not just like written. Like I've like written like two great writing partners, Gerald and Sam, 2 of them, and the other one's just so many drafts. As so many people read it, like these are movies that I'm really proud of and I'm ready to make right now if I get the opportunity to. And the goal now is to make a movie at a higher level. So like to make a movie that's indistinguishable from anything somebody else will see on Netflix. So something of the top quality production value, as well as something that everybody, as well as something that people are going to see. So, and by that you need like actual talent in it, like a star or some rising star of some kind. But people don't watch movies when they don't recognize the actors. Like it's very rare. Unless the movie's very good and the word of mouth is like strong, people don't really watch. And the way my films have been done is I've made 3 features and a lot of shorts, and they've had cool screenings in San Diego, and on YouTube they've had a few thousand. No, I'm 22. I'm still young, you know.
So you cut off. You cut off for just like 10 seconds.
Oh, I gave like the best advice anybody could ever hear, and I just can't remember it anymore.
Damn.
So, yeah. Well, basically, what I was saying was the movies that I've made so far haven't hit the mainstream yet, and aren't even close to hitting the mainstream. So I want to make a movie that puts me on the map. A movie that has a sizable budget, you know, so that I can pull off something of very good production value, and has maybe 1 or 2 actors in it that people can actually recognize and would go, hey, I know those guys, I'll check out the movie. So that's the goal. In order to do that, I've written the screenplays. They're low budget screenplays. Probably like if I got a line producer to do the budgets, it would probably be like 1 to 3 million each. Now the goal is to find a producer that's not me, because I always produce and self-funded my movie. Find a producer that can help champion this film and get this movie made. I want to get all 3 of them made by 2028. I want to get all 3 of them made. So I've got 8 years to get all 3 of them made. But this year, I want to start shooting one of the movies so that it'll come out next year. That's the goal. Now, this is a big goal, and that means I'm saying I want to raise at least $1 million. I want to get some celebrity to star in it. These are big benchmarks to hit, but that's what I want to do. But by the time I'm 24, I want to have one of these movies out. I'm turning 23 in a few months, so I've got 1.5 years, 2 years to make one of these movies. What I've been doing so far is emailing a lot of specific producers that I think would like to make these movies, as well as getting mentorship from people like Dave and Eric and others to see how we can get it made. That's the goal. The first step is to find a producer. That's the 80-20 thing. 80-20 thing is to find a producer that believes in it. Just
to finish, I mean, I guess if people want to follow you, follow your journey, like what, where should they follow you?
Well, they should come to my home address. My home address is, well, I mean, I have an Instagram. I haven't posted on there for like a year because I've been writing, but I have an Instagram called Jonny Santana Movies. There's no H in Johnny. Santana's like the guitar player, and movies, if you speak English, I'm sure you know how to spell movies. Same thing with the website, JonnySantanaMovies.com. Basically, on those 2 things, you could, if you want to contact me or follow me, everything.
And then YouTube to watch your movies, right?
Oh, true. Yeah, that's right. I think this is, I don't know, if you type in Jonny Santana on YouTube, what happens? Let's see.
What should they look up?
You could type in Jonny Santana, Just Another Tuesday.
There you go.
Just Another Tuesday. That was. Yeah, there you go. Okay, when you type that in, all the movies come up. Yeah. Okay, do that.
Nice. And that's your latest movie.
Thanks, Jamie. Yeah. just Another Tuesday. Just Another Tuesday is my latest movie. That one and The Empty Iris, and then Filmmaker. All the ones on there I'm pretty proud of.
There you have it. I hope you enjoyed the interview. If you want more career interviews like this one, make sure to subscribe to the channel. I set a personal goal for the first 90 days of 2021. I'm going to upload one video every week, so there's a lot more coming. If you want to check out Jonny's movies, you can check out his channel right here, where he has all 3 of his feature films. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.